Hey there everyone, welcome back to another Ark Survival Descended video. As always, I'm Captain Beefy and this is the Game Vault, and we are going to talk about breeding today with mods, because I use a couple different mods to assist me in breeding, and it makes my life, oh man, so much easier. So, let's cue up the music and we'll get right to it. Alright, first off, breeding. Breeding is a complicated thing, and as you can see, this base is designed for it. There's a lot of space here, so I can have clusters of animals breeding. Yes, it sounds kind of gross, like Thylus here, Pyramanes over there. I got Wyverns here. Right here I've got the Dinosuchus, the Tusateuthis in there, and finally I've got another pair of Wyverns over here because I need to get the stats off of the female onto a male, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And then I've got some Zephactinus right down here that are breeding up. Or at least they were. Are you still breeding? Yeah, they're still breeding. So, a lot going on here. A lot of stuff, right? And it can be overwhelming at times. But let's talk about what I look for when I breed. So, we'll take the Megalodon for instance here. We captured 5 of these out in the wild and tamed them up. And they tamed from levels 194 probably to 224, I imagine. 217 was the highest we got. We never got a 150. We could still look for more if we wanted to add stats to them later on. But what I do is I'll take these Megalodons and I'll look through and make note of their stats. The 4 main stats that I want. Which would be the health, the weight, the stamina, and the melee. I want to get the highest of all of these onto one creature. And that can be challenging. And it could take a while. And especially when you have a situation like this where only one of them is a female, right? So, look at her. She's got 62 stamina. That's kind of sick. That's very sick, actually. So, we want to get that on there. And then one by one, we're going to breed her with these other ones to pull the highest stats. So, let's see what the highest melee is. We got 38. We got 49, 42, and 35. So, I would start with this one and say, okay, let's get weight and stamina on there. Does this guy have any other high ones? His melee's 45. This one's got a melee of 53. So those are the only 2 important stats. And we're going to want to breed them until I get those 2 stats onto a female, and then I could pop that female in with this guy and breed in that high melee, blah, blah, blah. And then we'll look for the weight, which is 42 the highest. Let's see. Yep, 42 is the absolute highest. We could breed those 2 stats onto this guy. And eventually what we're going to end up with is what I call a perfect breeder. Right? Why didn't that work? Oh, God. I know why. I forgot to disable this. Anyway, let's go ahead and pull these perfects out. But first off, let's do this. We'll disable pulling. Okay. At least while we're here. Sorry, God. I had those on my otter to kind of separate them a little bit, but we'll look in here and we'll see what we got. So I did that for a while. I bred these guys together and together and together until I got level 250 Megalodons, and there you have it. 49 on the health, 42 on the weight, 62 on the stamina, and 53 on the melee on both of them, right? Perfect, same level, 250, awesome creatures. I don't worry about the food and oxygen. I mean, oxygen doesn't count on underwater creatures anyway. But I don't worry about the food stat. So whatever one goes in there, goes in there. It's not a big deal. It doesn't really impact anything I do at this time. I might look into that for certain creatures like the Daeodon or the Phiomia, for instance. Maybe even the Snow Owl. Creatures that use an ability that they need to, that uses up a lot of stamina, so they need to replenish it and get more food in them. Stuff like that. That's a possibility on some creatures, but it's really never a priority. Food is usually fantastic where it's at. So that's how you get perfects, right? You say, okay, good, I got perfects. Now, I'd like to do this because, as you all know, Ark is a dangerous place. It's a dangerous game. You get a nice tame, like let's say I had just got that Megalodon, one of those Megalodons, the one with the high melee. And I took him out in the ocean here, was running around, and I got him killed. Damn it. Now I got to go tame another Megalodon, right? When you do what I did here and you breed them up, and especially when you breed perfects up, and I'll show you how I've got this thing organized over here. Once you breed up perfect breeders, you're not so worried about losing your tame out there. I mean, you still don't want to do it because it sucks and you lost all the time and effort you put into leveling them. You potentially have lost a good saddle depending on what you've got on them. And all of that absolutely sucks. But if you've got at least parents like those two Megalodons there, those 250s, I can go out and I can create a Megalodon right now. I can birth one out, boom, use it as a mount. I could do a whole little school of them, right? I could do 5 or 6 of them, 8 of them, 9, whatever, and take them out running around. And if I lose a couple, I can come back and breed more. It's not like, oh no, I've lost them and everything sucks. No, it's be okay in the end. But what I do is I take, I kind of break down my creatures into different settings here. Like these are all breeding creatures from Scorched Earth. That's not all of them. I'm still sorting over some stuff that I have on the island. These are all the Wyvern breeders, and these are just breeders, right? These are underwater creatures, everything from, Mosas, Tusos, all of that fun stuff. That's nothing right now. These are flyers and bugs, so some cool, interesting stuff in there. Everything from scorpions to quetzals, different stuff like that. That was an empty one. We go over here. This one's empty. I've got carnivores over here, and that's pretty much all the carnivores, big and small, that are carnivores, normal carnivores. I got herbivores here. Then I kind of break things out into utility dinos. These are dinos that have a use. I mean, it kind of overrides whether or not they're a carnivore or an herbivore. Like, trikes are herbivores, but they're a great early game tame, and they're great for gathering thatch, and not so bad for wood. Ankies for metal, these guys for fiber, the Gigantopithecus, the mammoths for wood, and, there's Xenos for everything, pretty much. So, yeah, you've got these guys in there, and they all serve a purpose, which is kind of cool, and that's why they're in there. Then we move on to shoulder and small. So these are creatures that you can't ride. They're herbivores, they're carnivores, they're whatever. You can't ride them. You can either put them on your shoulder, or they're little guys that can run around and help you out, like, especially early game, like the Dilophosaur right here, Then you got the shoulder pet here. This is a Microraptor, and here's a Moschops, a nice early game ride. Technically, you can ride the Moschops. He could go into the herbivore one, or actually, he should go into the utility one. I need to move him. The Dimetrodon is another great one. Lots of variety in there. And then here's nothing. But once I breed up perfect breeders, they all go into this one here. This is the perfect fridge. And it's got everything in here. It's got the donkeys. And you'll see the levels always match. I used to do it where sometimes the level wouldn't match because maybe the food would be different on one than the other, or the oxygen in case of land-dwelling creatures, and that would kind of throw things off and make it not easy. And I'll explain why here in a minute. But, for now, having the same level's great. Basil's at 244. Sometimes I have multiple females, and there's a reason for that as well. But yeah, that's how all that works right there. And if I have individual projects that I'm trying to do something with, like here's Thylus, for instance, right? I've got Thylus with different stats on him here. This one's a colored one there, green belly on it. Just some different stuff in there that I want to separate them out and keep them off to the side so that when I'm done and I'm looking to make my final Thyla out of this batch or whatever, I know, where to look for things. If I want to pull a certain color out, or if, let's say right now, I'm working on melee on these guys, if I want to break it out and say, okay, I'm done working on melee, I want to work on health next, I know where to go. I go to that fridge. And that's just me. That's how I do it. This is how I organize, right? So I do use a mod called PCS, Peliori's Cryopod Storage, and I think that's a vital mod for this because it gives you a great tool. And that great tool is this one right here, the Cryo Terminal. We're going to look at that a little bit later on. I also use a mod called QOL Plus and another one called AA Plus, Automated Arc. Automated Arc gives us this egg crate, which is fantastic. You don't need it because you can use an Oviraptor or 2 or 3 in its place if you wanted to, but otherwise it's a great mod. You can't go wrong with it. These should be turned off for now. I don't know why I'm doing that. There we go. Be careful, I don't want dinos being born. Yeah, so I've got that going on there. Another mod, so for QOL Plus, that's Quality of Life Plus, it has this Dino Hitch mod. And that is crucial for breeding as well. I mean, it's not crucial, but it really, really, really helps. So the way you get dinos breeding, there's 2 different ways to do it. One of them is to get them to breed. You can go to the dino itself and bring up the wheel, go to behavior, and you'll see this, enable mating, right? And if you enable mating on a pair of dinos that are next to each other, they will start mating. They will produce eggs or babies in the allotted time that it takes on your server to do so. Those rates are adjustable on private servers, so keep that in mind. If you're a single player or a small tribe, you want to speed things up, you absolutely can do that. You don't have to worry about it. But yeah, you make sure both of them are set to do that, and they will mate. As we can see here, he is ready to mate, and she is ready to mate in 1 minute and 20 seconds. The Tusos lay eggs, and those eggs are picked up by that egg crate in there. Even though they're aquatic eggs, that's where they're picked up, and I'll show you how all that works. So anyway, that's how egg layers work, right? Live births, like the Thyla, for instance, they're going to pop out a baby, and then they're going to pop out another one and another one. This one here, you see they're gestating. They got 5 minutes left to gestate. This one's got 3 minutes. They're just going to keep doing that, and then he's going to keep mating with them because they're all set to wander. Now, why are they set to wander instead of mating? If I set them to mate, I wouldn't need to hitch. Okay, the way the hitch works is you hold down the triangle on it and you hitch dinosaurs. Hitched dinosaurs will not move. They will not walk. If you whistle like a follow all or something like that, they won't fall for it. You can whistle them to go somewhere. They won't go for it. They won't do anything. They will stay in their spot. So you could put them on wandering. Wandering will allow creatures to mate. It used to be the only way creatures would mate. And back in the day, you used to have to... yeah, it was very challenging to get creatures to mate. But wandering is better than mating, because mating only occurs when you are within render distance. So if I'm sitting around my base doing things, these guys will mate all day long. If I leave and they're on mating, they'll stop mating temporarily. So let's say I'm going to do a live stream with the guys. We're going to be on for 3 hours or so, and I'm not going to be at my base, but I want to get some breeding done while I'm out and about, and get some eggs hatched and all that to maybe get the next level of breeders out there or the next mutation, and we'll talk about that in a minute. It's not going to happen if I'm away from the base and we're running caves or doing boss fights or on a different map. But if they're on wander, they'll continue to mate. And I'll come back and I'll have tons of eggs, tons of babies to sort through, and all kinds of fun stuff. So there's that. Alright, let's talk about mutations now. Mutations are interesting, and they're a great way to beef up a creature. We use the Thyla, for instance. We're going to look at a basic perfect Thyla. And this is what the stats are on it, with the melee damage being 381.5. Now this guy has 13 mutations in his melee, bringing him up to 531.5. 381, 531. That's fantastic, and he hasn't even been leveled up once yet. You see that? Here it's all that out of 10. He's got 27 levels on him. So potentially, this guy is going to be much more deadly with his melee than this guy ever will be. And that's why we mutate. And that's why we have several creatures here mutating. So step one is to take your perfect male and your perfect female and mate them together until you get a mutation. And a mutation is easy enough to see on a creature. I'll show you here on one of these. Okay, I don't have any on these guys. Let me put these guys up actually first, and then we'll do that. I don't want to gum up everything. There's our perfect. I'd like to actually get to work on mutations for these guys, but that's just a challenge for another day. Put an empty in there? Yeah. Alright. So this is my free dino box. As I do these breedings and all that, creatures that I no longer need, I put in here. And we'll look at how it works. So right now we're working on 18 melee mutations for the Wyvern. This one had 14. It's a 14M. And if you look at the numbers down there on the box that pops up, and this is because of Peliori storage, you won't see this on a regular cryopod. You may see it in different formats on other cryo mods, and that's great. You know, go ahead, pick the one you like the most. I've used this one since day one, and I like it, but it doesn't mean it's the best. But it's the one I'm most familiar with, and I've had people tell me other ones to try, and I might try, like, I think it's Dino Storage. I might try that on another server down the road. Maybe on a personal server first. Maybe even on single player, just to mess around with it and see how it operates, see if it's better. And if it is better, we could, in theory, migrate ourselves over. I just don't know how that would work, you know. Ugh. That could be a real nightmare. But anyway, enough about that. If we look at the stats down here, we can see how many points are allocated into each statistic, okay? And let me explain that to you. So, based on the level of a creature, that determines how many points are allocated to various statistics, like health, weight, oxygen, so on and so forth, right? And if you look at the numbers down here in this pop-up box that comes up, you're going to see, like, let's take, for instance, health. 8,474 health. This creature has 41 points allocated to health out of all the points it had to allocate. 39 to weight. 30 to oxygen. 36 to stamina. 37 to melee. And 30 to food. Now, if you look at the melee one, right next to it is the number 28. That is representing the 14 mutations. Every time you get a mutation, you get 2 more points into a stat. So instead of 37 points into this one, we've got 58, 65, right? 65 points into that one, which is great. That's just a base stat right there. That's, again, an unleveled creature. This creature has not been leveled at all yet. That third number next to it, so you got 37, 28, and 0. That would be if you leveled the creature some, and that would show you how many levels you've put into that creature. So you can really break things down even after you've done some mutating and stuff like that and leveled up a creature. If you wanted to really see what the original stats were, you could go back and check that out using that method. All right. Now, when I breed, I like to breed up a lot of creatures, right? And we're going to go take a look and see what we got going on in here right now. So first off, we got 63 creatures in the cryo terminal. And these creatures are basically either Thylas or Pyromenes. I think those are the only live births I've got going on right now. Okay. So, for both of these creatures, we're working on, I think, melee for one and health for the other. But what we want to look at is creature levels. Okay? So, this is the number we want to look at. This is a level 271 Thyla. And again, completely unleveled, never been leveled. He's achieved that high number through mutations and selective breeding. That's what's made him such a high level. So, we're going to take that level and we're looking to add one more mutation to it, right? One more melee mutation, which would make him 273 because it would give 2 levels to him. One mutation will jump up 2 levels. This one here is a 278. We're looking for 280. So 280 and 273 are the numbers we're looking for. Wow, 280. That's a pretty big jump, but hey. The Pyromenes had a higher starting point at 264 rather than 245. Alright, so let's look for 273 real quick. And this is why I like the terminal, and this is why I like using it. You don't need to use this, but it will make your life, God, so much easier. And we do have one. Now we'll look down at the actual mutations, and we'll look down at melee right off the bat. We see there's 26 there. That's a 13. That's not good. And we look up, and stamina got 2 points in it. So, yeah. No good. Now we can check for a double mutation. They happen very rarely by going up one more point, 275. It didn't happen. Now, 280 was the one we were looking for the Pyromane, right? We'll pull that up, and look at that. I got 3 280s here. This one has an extra mutation in oxygen, so it's no good. Oxygen. Oxygen. Makes me wonder if that might have been triplets. No, this one's got a different color in one region. I don't think that could be a triplet, but these two could be a pair, you know, a pair of twins or something like that. So that is what it is. Moving on here, we see we've got some eggs building up. We got 81 so far. That's kind of crazy. Here are, yeah, the Surfactinus eggs. Wow, lots of Tuso eggs. I can't believe the Tusos breed that much quicker than the Surfactinus, but that's okay. What we're going to do is turn on our AC. And we're going to hatch the wyvern eggs real quick and see what we've got. And I'll explain why. Now, sometimes, but it's not always feasible, you can breed one male with several females at the same time. And we see that happening here. We see that happening here. And we see that happening over here. These are all perfect females. Now we're waiting on a male with the next level of mutation in them. So we're looking for one with 20 mutations, which is going to raise his melee up a little bit more. But, you know, we got to wait for those eggs to hatch. If I find that... Actually, no, I'm not looking for that. I'm sorry. Well, that would be nice. That's probably a rare chance. But what I'm really looking for is just a plain old 18M. A male version of that creature with all 14. Because then I can throw it in here when it grows up. And it can mate with all 6 of these. And just start, you know, cranking out babies left and right. Which is the goal. Over here I got the Deinosuchus. These are bigger creatures. A little harder to mate them with... multiples all at once, but it is what it is. You know, I got 2 females, 1 male, and he's got a single mutation in melee, which is good. I'm going to let those guys just ride like that. The Tusos are huge. There's only 2 of them here, so that is what that is. And as a fact of this, I'm looking to get a perfect male, so I only have 1 perfect female, so I really can't do anything more than that. But as soon as I get a perfect male out, then I can breed them together. I can breed up maybe 6 females and get them to working on making multiple mutations and all that. I had a little trouble in here the last couple days where creatures have spawned inside of my cage here. I had a Megalodon one night and an Alpha Megalodon one night. The Alpha Megalodon actually wiped out a lot of my Surfactinus that I had down there. They weren't breeding at the time, but I was kind of like thinking about breeding them, so I had them out, and they decimated them, which sucks. Because I did have a perfect male at one point, and more perfect females, but that's a story for another day, you know. But yeah, that's the basics of breeding right there. As you can see, these guys are all breeding right now. And what I do is I tend to keep my old breeders for a while. Like I said, I'll offer the guys, they could take these if they want. You know, we see we have a 1 health Tuso. We have a 2 health Tuso. We're working on the 3 health right now, trying to get a 4. You can look back, 8 melee, 11 melee, 12 melee. So these guys can pick up these old dinos if they want. But another reason I keep these for a while is in case I screw something up. And I did that the other night. So I had a 13M, I had a 14M Thyla. And I use this gun. This is part of the QL program. This gun will do different things to your dinos when you shoot them. You see it highlights them. So it'll do things like creep mode, turret mode, kill mode, which kills them, spay mode, which neuters them or spays them, chibify, which changes them into a chibi, mating, whistle, follow, and then wandering. And I use it, you know, to put creatures in wandering and take them out of wandering. Because it's much easier to walk up and go, okay, boom. He's, you know, when I'm done mating and I'm going, you know, going to get off for the night or whatever, I turn everything off. I don't want these creatures mating while I'm not online because horrible things can happen, and that's something I highly recommend you avoid at all costs. I've come back to thousands of sheep on servers. I came back once to a whole bunch of pissed off Thylas that were born and survived, and they were all unclaimed. And I went to kill one. I was like, well, let me just kill all these guys. And they went nuts and killed all kinds of stuff around my base. It was an absolute horror fest. So always turn off breeding when you leave, and make double sure that it's turned off, because it could be, yeah, like I said, it could be a total nightmare when all that's done. Alright, so these eggs look like they hatched. Did they hatch already? Oh no, they're in the ground. So I say that felt like a really, really quick hatch. So yeah, once they're hatched up, I'm going to check and see if I've got a male 250 dino in there. And that's what's great about it, is I can look for just the level number. I can filter through hundreds of creatures in no time by simply putting in a number, And that to me is priceless. That's why I love this mod so much, is Peliories. So to go over it again, Peliories, QOL Plus, and AA Plus are the 3 mods that really contribute to my breeding experience and make it a lot easier and a lot more. It takes away a lot of the frustrating parts of the game. Imagine if I couldn't pick up babies, right? So I would constantly have to monitor these Thylas, because they'd be dropping out babies left and right. I'd have to claim them, and then I'd have to check their stats, and I write down the stats on paper or whatever to see if I get a mutation. That's if I didn't use Peliories, because Peliory, of course, gives us the number of levels that have been put into these things, so it's a different way to track things, but it would just make life a lot easier. Old school breeding was a lot different than this new style of doing it, let me tell you. So let's see, we got some more eggs dropping here. And he got picked up by the thing. Alright, so yeah, if you got any questions, let me know. I just keep multiple things breeding at once, because I want to, a couple different things I want to do. I want to get these guys prepared for extinction. We're going to be using these guys to fight off some of those orbital supply drops. So if we got really, really good fire wyverns, it's going to be fantastic over there. And yeah, I'm starting way ahead of time. I get it, but it doesn't matter. The longer I have to make it, the better they'll be. These guys is just kind of like a fun project. We don't really need them for anything, but a sick Thyla with tons and tons of melee and then some health on top of it is a great companion. It will survive pretty much anything on the map, especially with a good saddle. Unbelievable. The Surfactinus is a new creature. I kind of want to just try them out a little bit. I haven't really built a school of them yet and taken them out like I have with the Megalodon. I'd like to see how they compare to the Megalodon, see if they're any more fun than that. These guys, I'm sorry, I love squid. Whatever. Calamari. And mutated squid, it's something I've never done. It's a big project, and it's probably going to take forever. I probably will never have 20 health and 20 melee mutations on the squid, but the ability to get a high health squid with a good saddle would be sick, right? So we started off with 29,700, and now we're at 32.9, almost 33. So that's a pretty good jump with just 3 mutations. My goal, 100k on these guys, without having to level them. Then you can just put everything into melee, and that's going to be absolutely horrifying. Alright, so we're looking for a 250, and we're going to finish this off with that. We hatched those eggs. I was hoping that would happen in time. I'm going to look for a 250 male wyvern with the right... Well, they should all be the right mutation. So, yeah, see, getting one of these is easy, right? So, boom, 36, 36, 36. We'll look at a 252 just out of curiosity. Because sometimes you can get a jump onto the next level. Be like, oh, hey, cool. But for now, any of these guys will do. And we got that one. And then what we'll do is we're going to toss this guy out, let him grow up, and eventually he's going to mate with those 6. And I can put these 2 away for now. That's how I do breeding. Now, there are a couple other tools that we're going to be using here soon. We built them and brought them over from the island. I just don't have any element right now, so I can't use them. The propagator. And the mutator. The mutator we used before. I think I did a video where we mutated rhinos, I believe. But yeah, this thing can do quite a bit. And it can be quite interesting. Like, you can add gender to a creature. It can make creatures breed that don't normally breed. So, like, dung beetles, for instance. Or if you want to think really, really big, change the gender of a rhino, and then breed those two together. You know, you have one male, one female, and then breed them together and start working on mutations for that. That would be kind of cool, you know. Imprint stops nearby dinos from aging, nearby dinos to grow more rapidly. This can cause mutated eggs or live births. Swaps the gender of nearby dinos. Random. Boom. Yep, there we go. So this thing can do a few different things on it. That's a QOL up thing. This is also QOL, the propagator. This one's really interesting because you can breed dinos from cryopods. All creatures will produce eggs. So that would eliminate all this space necessary, right? Imagine if I threw in there all these female wyverns and then the male that is being used to breed. It would take up no space whatsoever compared to all that, you know. And it would make life so much easier. And I can actually see the stats on the eggs when they pop up, so the eggs will pop out. I believe they pop out and go right into here, the egg crate. I could look into the egg crate and say, oh, okay, this one, you know, this one's got the stats I want, I can hatch that, and just let the other ones rot, destroy them or eat them or whatever. Save a lot of time. A lot of time. But yeah, go ahead, leave a like on the video down below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and ring that bell for notifications. As always, I'm Captain Beefy with the Game Vault. Thanks for joining me today. I'll see you guys next time. Until then, peace.